Hi everybody, Mike Brown back with you. Welcome back to Educator.com's Adobe Photoshop CS6 course. So far in this course we've gone over the workspace, we've looked at preferences, we've gone over Bridge, the editing and sorting program, we've gone into Camera Raw, which allows you to take your images and do preliminary corrections on the overall image and then bring it in Photoshop for further work. We've talked about the exposure and color corrections that you can perform on your images and how you use those tools and functions. And now it's time to deal with the most important technique in Photoshop. If you remember my 4 basic categories, the first and most important category is selections. And my mantra, which you'll see in a moment, if you can't select it, you can't correct it. If you cannot isolate an area precisely and properly, you can't make a correction that's flawless. We're going to go over the primary selection tools and briefly how they relate to each other, the panels and functions, all that relate to the selecting. And then in this lesson I'm going to close out by showing you a few samples of where we utilize selections and how they actually make the images far better than if you didn't have selections. All right, let's get started. Let's talk for a moment about apps and plugins for photo correction. I receive emails all of the time, and I just got an email from a colleague the other day telling me about a new app and plugin, an app for the iPhone and all the other smartphones, and also the same piece of software on a little more robust level that's available for a plugin to Photoshop, which I found there's all sorts of plugins for Photoshop that can do various and sundry things. A company called Nik, N-I-K, made some fabulous plugins that are far better and expansive in the black and white conversion and also in HDR, which is high dynamic range photography. These are things that Photoshop has functionality but not as expansive. Now, this plugin that I got the email for, $200 for a plugin to go into Photoshop that does nothing more than the same thing you can do right in Photoshop. I went over it, took a look at it, and I'm absolutely amazed. If you're interested in just quick fixing snapshots, taking your iPhone, taking a picture, doing some quick editing and not retouching but correcting, and then popping it up on Facebook, Photoshop is not the right software for you at all. Just get one of these cool apps, and some of them are free, some of them cost $1 or $2. They'll fix those little Photoshops up and they'll look interesting and they'll look better than they did to start with up there on Facebook and on the internet. But if you're serious, you need Photoshop. In today's world of digital photography, a decent camera is inexpensive, and even the cell phone cameras are now of decent quality and resolution. So almost every image you take today is going to be a reasonable high quality photo. Technically, it's up to you to provide the artistry to make that a good photo to take further. And there are just all these apps and plugins that you can correct all sorts of stuff: exposure, color, sharpening, all sorts of effects, old-time effects, whacked out filter effects, all sorts of stuff. Some of them offer basic options to retouch, crop, sharpen, color correct, and so on. In the end, most all of these programs can improve the look of your images. But if you're doing serious photography, Photoshop is the only solution. It's far more expansive, far more precise, and if you know how to use it right, which I'm going to teach you all of this, just as easy to use. If you're working with any of these high resolution files and your end product is a high quality print, or maybe if you're a professional going to a client for an ad, poster, catalog, or even a billboard, high quality photography, precise retouching and enhancement is absolutely essential. You cannot get that with any other of these plug-in programs or other programs that I know of besides Photoshop. Anything that these other programs that claim they can do all this magic easily, anything they can do can be done in Photoshop equally as well equally as fast as long as you know how to do it, and in most cases far better than any of the apps. So Photoshop is the way. What really sets Photoshop apart from all of the rest is the variety of precision, high-quality tools and functions and techniques, and most notably, the array and quality of the selection tools and methods. Selections are the key.